So today we are going to model this headphone, and as you know, this headphone was used in the Fiverr video which I uploaded a week ago. You've probably already seen it. If not, place it in your watch later and come back to this video to model some headphones. So let's get started straight away. I've already deleted the cube and I'm going to bring in a mesh circle, and we don't want it to be 32, we want it to be 16. Should be a lot less. I'm going to click on dot and this is going to be our circle. Now, the way I'm going to be modeling this is on the RY90, so that when I press 3, it is in the front. And as always, we work with reference, which I'm going to bring in right now. So I'm going to press Shift-A, image, reference. I brought in the reference, which you can get on Patreon for free, obviously, and I'm going to bring it somewhere in the back so that we can see it at all times. Now, modeling it according to the reference is going to be quite hard. We don't actually want to go over here, press on 1, and rotate this to the side, bring it over here and try to manipulate it in such a fashion so that it looks like this headphone. That's going to be a lot of hassle and constantly working with normals, which is going to increase the amount of times clicked, and we are going to reduce that amount. So this is actually what we are going to start out with, and it's very simple. We're going into edit mode, click on 1 in order to show these vertices, and I'm going to press E and X and it will bring it out towards this side. And the first one should be very thin, something like this. And then we're going to press E and X and we'll make the next layer. If I look at the reference, which I'm going to bring a little bit closer, we can see that there is a line right here, but there's also a sharp crease somewhere around this area. And we want to make sure to emulate that. So in order to get that done, I will place one extra loop cut right here. So now we have our thin area, which is going to be this area. And then we've got this area right here, which is going to be this little part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press on 3 and I will press on Alt-Z so that we can see through it. I will click on 3 and I will select all of these. As you can see, we have exactly half selected. But we don't want this entire area to be selected because it is connected, as you can see right here, to the bottom part. This top part is a bit more loose. So I'm going to click on P in order to separate the selection. And now this part is separated from this part. I believe this can be a little bit thicker. G and X. Like so. Now I'm going to give this a subdivision by clicking Ctrl 3, and now we already get some idea of what the shape is going to look like. So right now we have to make this area, and this area is sloped. So I'm going to select this part, this part, this part, and this part. If I click on 7, you can see 2 are underneath the red line and 2 are above the red line. I'm going to press on E, Z and bring it upwards. S, Z, 0, S, Y and move it inwards until we get that general shape. This is what it looks like right now. When it comes to this part, right here, right now it would be very nice if we can remove all of this and simply give it this shape right here. So what I'm going to do is click on this little button right here, which allows it to auto merge vertices. If we have this one selected and press on G and G, then once we reach this end, there will no longer be 2 vertices. It will just be 1 because they were deleted automatically. Now let's have a look at this. This is starting to look like the general shape that we're trying to achieve, but there is no sloping motion right here. So what we should do is add a loop cut. But before we do that, let's go over here and delete this interior, X faces. Now we have the part we need. Let's add 2 loop cuts. Let's select this area and this area. Shift S, cursor to selected. I will select those lines right here. Or actually, I'm just going to select this entire inner line by holding Alt, set this to 3D cursor, SX, and scale this inwards. I'm going to do this in a very careful manner. Now select those 2 vertices, cursor to selected. Let's select this line, S and X. And let's make sure that we have that general shape. We have got that shape right now. S and Y. Let's select this line as well, S and Y. And let's make sure that we get that shape in a fashion that's correct. I think it can be brought down a little bit lower. So if we select all of these, G and Z, perhaps it makes a bit more sense we do it like this. Now I'm going to bring in a solidify modifier real quickly in order to see how it actually looks. And I will bring it inwards, which is my preferred method. And I will bring it above the subdivision as well. Very good. Now I'm going to do the same for this one. Solidify, Let's drag it on top of the subdivision. And now we have a mesh that looks like this. Very cool. If we add some extra geometry, we can already see how the shape is going to work out. So right now, as we are noticing, there is a sharp edge right here and it's flowing over into this circular part, or at least so it seems. So I'm going to press Ctrl R right here. I'm going to press SX0 and make sure that we have median point instead of the 3D cursor. And I'm going to press G and X and bring that line all the way over here. Now that's starting to look good, and later on we're going to remove the solidify and we're actually going to give it some geometry ourselves. But for now this is working out perfectly fine. So let's turn the solidify off for both of these right now. And this is what it looks like, starting to head into the right direction. Now I am going to select both of these and I will go into edit mode. I will select this one and this one. I will press Shift D, click B, separate selection. And now we've got a separate two lines right here. I'm going to press A and Ctrl J in edit mode. Right now we have two vertices right here and that is not really connected. So I'm going to select both of these. Make sure to press Alt C, otherwise you'll only be able to select just one. I'm going to press M, merge at center, and I will do the same for this area right here. Cool. Press out of Alt C. Let's go to Object, set Origin, Origin to Geometry, and let's scale this down. And then I will go into Edit mode. Let's press on 1, let's select all, let's press E and X, and let's bring it outwards until we reach a part like this. Maybe somewhere over here, because this is going to be the inner area within this cushion. It doesn't have to go that far, maybe somewhere over here is fine. Then I will select it once again over here. G and X shouldn't really be sticking out on this side from what I'm noticing. So I'm simply going to press E and S, E and S, E and S, E and S, E and S. Make sure that all of these squares are approximately the same size. Let's keep it egalitarian, E and S. And right here, grid fill. Grid fill. Let's shade this smooth, very good. Let's go over to the other side, select this. And instead of doing all of this again, we can also place a loop cut in the middle. Let's go over here, select all of this, delete the faces, go to the modifier stack, add a mirror modifier. Let's place it all the way on top. And when we apply this, it is not working out simply because the origin point is right over here. So I will simply go over here, select this line, press Shift S, cursor to selected, and that will place the cursor exactly in the middle. Then I will go back to object mode, object, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. And now the Z axis is actually doing its thing and working out. I'm not sure if you're having the same type of trouble, but if you do, Control A, all transforms, and then set it to X. And then it should work out. But right now, since I applied the transforms, the geometry origin point removed itself. So object, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. And that should solve all the problems. I'm going to press Ctrl A to apply the mirror modifier. So now we have this right here. Not bad. I will simply select the middle 4 faces. Ctrl plus, and now we have this area. I'm going to press on O in order to enable proportional editing. G and X. Let's bring this out ever so slightly in a coherent fashion so we get that inner headphone type shape, something like this. Shading looks correct, so I'm simply going to keep it like this. So next up we have to figure out a way in order to get this little area right there, and it's not a very simple area, and there's something very important that you should not forget when you try to do this, because the first time I did it I kind of messed up, which is why I had to film this video all over again. But we're not going to say that. I am a perfect human being and I make no mistakes. Cool. Once we're completely happy with this, I highly recommend selecting all of this and duplicating it, placing it in a backup collection. And I will turn this off. Cool. So this was the easy part. Now we're going to do the hard part. This part is the hard part. Right over here, all of this is pretty doable. So let's go over here and I will go into edit mode. I will select this edge right here all the way until this edge, and then I will press Shift S, cursor to selected, we get the cursor right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a circle right over there. It's going to be a little bit big, but that's not a problem. Let's click on 7 And we want to make sure that these vertices align perfectly because this is the exact middle point. So let's zoom in and let's do our best in order to get the greatest result that we can achieve. So scale this down, hold shift and make sure that it's perfectly aligned like this. Very good. Now I'm going to select this entire area, holding Control X, delete the edges. And then I will take this part by pressing L and I will leave this exactly where it is. But there's a slight caveat right here. I'm going to select this entire area as well. And watch what happens if we now click on the spin tool, for example, which is right here. We're going to use that later. I just want to do something for an example. If you make this part too thick, then your headphone will be too thick. Is make sure that this size right here is sensible for the rest of the model. So I'm going to click on this area, Shift S, cursor to selected. Let's click on this entire curve, set this to 3D cursor, S and X. And let's bring it inwards just a little bit so it becomes a bit more thin and more like the shape of this headphone, if you get what I'm saying. Now I'm going to Shift D this entire line. Shift D, I'm going to bring it down, and right here we have some other vertices. I hope you can see this quite clearly. And we are still scaling from the 3D cursor, but we should update that. Let's select this and this line, which is on the same height. Shift S, cursor to selected. Then I will select this line and I will click on scale until we reach this line right here. All right, it seems like it should be brought up just a little bit. So let's zoom in real deep and get this as good as humanly possible, like this. Very good. And now both of these should be aligned, but this doesn't seem to be the case. So I'm going to click scale until it is the case, like this. There you go. Very good. Then, before we actually start connecting all of these things, I'm going to select this first and search for bridge edge loops. And now if we bridge these edge loops, we actually have this area. But of course, it needs to be connected to the main part. So let's do that. Let's click on this vertex and that vertex, merge at the first. I'm going to take this area as the guide. Then right here, merge at first. This one and that one merge at last in this case. And let's select this one and that one merge at last in this case. All right, so we have something weird going on right here. And I believe the problem is with this little line. So I'm going to select all of this and delete the faces. And this line should probably be removed as well. So let's shade this smooth. We have a problem right here. Now, what could be the problem? Let's have a look at this and check the face orientation. Aha, well, it seems like we have some inverted faces right there. So let's select all of this and press Shift N. And now all the faces should be moved to the correct side. Let's do the same for this one now that we're in this mode anyways. So Shift N and that will invert the normals like that and correct them automatically. So let's go over here again, face orientation, and now all the shading issues are gone. This is what it looks like with a solidify modifier, but I feel like this might be a bit too big. And the way to check is to see how far this actually goes. If we have our line right here, that's that line. This is barely sticking out over this line, okay? So I'm going to select this entire inner area, cursor to selected. Then I will select that entire area. Let's select just a little bit more. S and X, like this. And just keep going until what you see makes sense. And trust me, once you do this, the next step will be a lot easier as well. Because if we place a line right there and make this headphones, it should be pretty thin. If it's not, then you did something wrong. If this is too thick, for example, it will look cartoony and weird. You don't want that, okay? So make sure to double check this a couple of times before you go on to the next stage. And if we look at it right now, I think mine is a bit too thin. So I was probably scaring myself a bit too much about the previous model and it should be a bit thicker. So I'm going to solve that problem right now. Select this area, Shift S, cursor to selected. Then I will select this entire area, set it to 3D cursor. Let's scale this upwards just a little bit. Then let's select the under area. So this side, Shift S, cursor to selected. And then I will select this side, SX. Make sure that this is straight. So something like this. And to be honest, we can also take a look at this one for a reference. This is probably the way this line should look. So if we select this area, for example, then you don't want this to be too much skewed. You don't want it to be stretched out. It should probably still remain a bit more straight, just so you know. So something like this. And while we're at it, let's select this vertex, Shift S, cursor to selected. Let's select this line area once again. So hold Control, select this entire area. R and, oh, we actually pressed E. R and Y. And let's bring this up. Then let's have a look at why this is so skewed. So let's press Scale again to make it straight, until we get this area that looks a bit more like the reference, because it is going upwards, right? Something like this. Pretty cool. Now let's give it another test shot. Let's press on 1. Let's place the 3D cursor like somewhere over here. Let's do this, and that seems like the correct thickness for this headphone model. If I place this to the side, yeah, this makes a bit more sense. Cool. So make sure you get that area right. It's very important. Otherwise, the rest of the model will not work out. And we are getting some shading artifacts right here. And that is because it has scaled itself a little bit towards the inside. I'm not sure where things went wrong, but we can fix it simply by selecting those vertices and scaling it outwards until we have solved this problem. And it's following along with this line again nicely. One other thing I'm noticing is that this might not be entirely straight anymore. So I'm simply going to select all of this, SX0, and make sure that it is straight. So I'm also going to do the same for this line, which I'm going to select like this, SX0, and that did change something. And that made it straight, and we no longer have any shading artifacts going on. So for this area, I'm simply going to select this entire outer ring. I will press Ctrl B, and I will bevel this and give it 1, 2, 3, or maybe 4 of these bevel divisions. And now it's pretty cool and straight looking. I'm going to do the same for this area. So now that looks pretty cool and supreme. But as you can see, this part right here is still going down a little bit more. So we have to enter into this area. So we have to enter into this model. And I will first select this part and that part. And I will GG it all the way down until we get to the same type of curvature that is going on right here. I hope you can see what I mean. Then I will select both of these vertices, G and Z, and bring it down as well so that it follows this line correctly until we get to a point where we're like, okay, this is starting to look exactly like this shape. And I think we achieved it right now. So before we continue, let's first select all of this again, Shift D, Y, bring it over there, and place it in the backup collection. All right, so now let's turn off the solidify modifier and let's actually remove it. Let's go into edit mode, select everything, and then I will press Alt E, and in this case bring it outwards, because if we bring it outwards, things will not get messed up right here, because if we bring it inwards, well, it's not working out. So we have to bring it outwards, something like this. Make sure you're reasonable with the size. You can always scale it down a little bit with Alt S. So let's select this entire ring, and that one as well. So let's select this and this, that and that, this area and that area, then right here and right there. And I believe we should have everything on the outside. So there's nothing on the inside, only on the outside that we've selected. Control B, and now we will have a pretty cool, well-rounded off model without any issues. We're going to do the same for this area later on, but for now let's keep it simple. Let's select all of this as Z0. Let's make sure it's straight. And let's select this inner area S and Y. Let's bring it a bit more into its place, like so. Cool, we have to do that later on because if we bevel it now, it will be destroyed. So right now we are going to make the bottom side. We have just finished this top part and it's starting to look pretty good. If we place this right over here, for example, real quickly, let's make it something like this, scale it down a bit to make it a bit more sensible. This is aligning quite well. And if we now, let's say, do this and make our little spin tool, this is going to work out. I hope you can see that as well. This is going to take some fiddling around, by the way. But we can see that this is going into the right direction. This is starting to look like a headphone. That's pretty good. We are not going to give this thickness just yet. We are simply going to leave it like this because we need to make some holes and we don't want to make holes on two sides. So what I'm going to do first, I will select this line right here. Why? Because we have this harsh crease in the model itself. I'm not sure if you're able to see that, but I can see it and I'm going to guide you through it step by step. So I'm going to press Shift E and this will make it harsh. But if we look at this, not that much changed because the angle of this is not big enough for the crease to take effect. So let's make sure that we have this inner area selected. Turn off proportional editing. Let's make sure that we're on median point and scale it down ever so slightly. Not too much, just a little bit is enough. And as you can see, we already have this cool looking crease that otherwise we would not have. We're going into this mode and we have to make some holes. Now you can already think about how we're going to do that. We are not going to use a boolean. If you use a boolean, I'm going to do that real quickly. Let's just grab a UV sphere. Let's grab this modifier and let's apply it. Then you'll be able to see that whenever we make a hole like this, it's going to be a mess. So we're not going to do that at all. We're going to delete this and we're going to add some geometry. We want to make sure that all of these lines are the same size. Now these are pretty long and I would have recommended myself, if I could do this earlier on, to have squares like this. But when we add those right now, it's kind of messing up our mesh. So we cannot do that and we have to come up with a different solution. Not a problem, because modeling is actually coming up with solutions, spatial solutions, the entire time. And it would be very nice if everything and every move you did was correct at the first time, but it's not. So you have to learn to solve problems in modeling so that you can make better models over and over again. And when you encounter problems, you are able to solve them each and every single time because it's the problem solving skill that really matters in the modeling and not using extrude, rotate or scale because you knew how to do that after your first donut tutorial. Those were a lot of words, but I'm now going to add a couple of loop cuts and I want to make sure that these are approximately the same size, and that's what we've got right here. Now, before we actually continue, let's take all of this and new backup, new collection, call it backup 3 in my case. I messed around with it a bit. And now we have this part and I will simply go to the solidify and remove it. Then I will go to the subdivision, set it to 1 and apply it. You need to be in object mode for this, by the way. The easiest thing would be to have a look at where these buttons are located. I think somewhere over here. I'm just going to roll with this. So let's select this, trying to interpret this by eye. I feel like it's going almost to the middle, but just not yet. So let's go ahead and select all of these parts like so. And we want to make sure that we have an even amount of faces. So those are 5. That's not good. We want to have 4 or 6. So I'm going to add this one as well, because now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if we count from the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which means that this vertex is in the middle. So now that we got this area selected, I'm simply going to press I, and perhaps I want to scale it down on the x-axis a little bit as well. We now have an area that we can work with. I think the buttons will be approximately this thick. So what I'm going to do is I will press on 1 and I will select the middle vertex right here, cursor to selected. And why am I doing this? Well, let's have a look. Our line here, our edge, is moving diagonally, which means that this line here is also moving diagonally. What does this mean? Well, logical consequence is that our button is going to move diagonally. Now, this is going to be weird. Nobody makes those buttons diagonally. They are probably some standardized shape with a circular form that is going to be placed right in here. And if we are doing this in any other method, it is going to look fine. I wouldn't actually be mad at you if you would try to do it in a different method, such as selecting all of this. Let's do that real quickly. And deleting all of these faces and selecting this and using the smooth tool, and then you would have something that looks a bit more circular. And then you have this part, you add a grid fill, you use this as the button, like so. You will probably make sure that it's disconnected from the other area. And this would look fine for the button if you want to do something like this. But I think we can achieve a higher level instead of only doing that. We are going to make it a little bit better, and I'm also going to teach you a new technique that will improve your skills. All right, so we have placed our 3D cursor right here, and I will now bring in a circle. The circle will be scaled down, RX 90, and I'm going to make sure that the top vertex is exactly on this 3D cursor. And we can be as precise with this as we want. I like to be precise. So something like this. Very cool. Now we're going to set this to 3D cursor. We can scale it down. Let's have a look. Let's go into edit mode for this one as well. Let's select only this circle. And we want to make sure that the circle fits into this area, like so. And it does. So now let's help the mesh a little bit by rotating it, and do make sure that this vertex is exactly on the other one, okay? And I want you to think for a second. This object has a curve, it has curvature, but this circle is flat. We simply rotated it, it doesn't have curvature. So how can we make sure that this circle is following the curvature of the original model? I'm going to give you a hint, there's a modifier for it. Think about it for a second. All right, so I hope you got it, and if you don't, no problem, I'm going to tell you right now, you'll never forget. It is the shrink wrap modifier. So we're going to add a modifier, shrink wrap, and especially for curving objects, this is a perfect modifier, because working with curves is one of the hardest things in modeling that you can do, because we are working with different normals and all of those complications that make our life harder. But I'm simply going to select the picker tool, select the original object, and right now you saw something happen with our circle, and the circle is now actually following the curvature quite well of this object. And I'm immediately going to apply it as well, by the way. I will add both of these together by Control J, and then I will select the circle, go over here, press L, I'm going to press Shift D. Let's just take it out here, P, separate the selection, and now we get a new one. So I'm going to the bottom side of this button, Shift S, cursor to selected, and I will take this circle, Shift S, selection to cursor, loop tools, flatten, and now we have a normal circle again. Going to object, set origin, origin to geometry, Shift S, selection to cursor, and now we have to make sure that this area once again is placed on the 3D cursor. And let's place this circle on the 3D cursor, and let's make a new circle because I think this one is a bit messed up. RX 90, simply going to scale it down until it is the same size as the other circle. I'm going to place it right there, scale it down, and now I'm quite certain that it's the exact same size as the previous one. Let's delete it. Now we get this one, RX, and rotate it to help it along a little bit. Add a shrink wrap modifier. Let's select the original mesh, and let's apply it as well, and let's add this to the mesh. Cool. We are going over here. I will select this entire inner area that we made before. And delete it. Great. Click on 1. I think we accidentally brought in a circle with 32. Going to press on L, and now we only have this circle. Select, and then checker deselect, and make sure that we keep the ones that are important and dissolve those vertices. So that should probably work out. We have one there, we have one there, we have one over there, and then basically we are lacking this one, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. That one first, then the circle, M, merge at last. Let's merge this at last. Merge this at last. Oh, we got a wrong one. Merge at last. Merge at last. Let's take this, merge at last, merge at last, merge at last, and then we will select all of this and delete those vertices. Very good. Now we can perhaps select this area and scale it outwards just a little bit, something like this. So this line is a bit more straight, and that seems like a perfect circle to me, which means that we were successful. Let's do the same over here. So let's first select this circle, go over to select, checker deselect, make sure that we have the right one. If you do not have the right one, by the way, you can select this button right here and that will offset it. So that's just a little something that you can do. X, dissolve the vertices, and now we're going to do the exact same trick. We already know it works, so why change the winning team, right? M, merge at last. Cool. Let's do the same for this one. Merge at last. Merge at last. Merge at last. M, merge at last, merge at last, and merge at, misclick, merge at last. Cool, cool, cool. Then we're going to select the rest of the circle, delete it, we don't need it. I will select those edges right here, S and X, and make sure that the line is straight. Awesome. So this is what it looks like. I think this is perfect. There are no shading issues. And it's a perfect circular form, which is exactly what we needed for this button. So let's finish the button then. Let's place this in a backup. This was a hard part, it's not that hard, but we don't want to mess things up and do this again. It's a very time consuming part. I'm going to place this in the backup once again. Cool. Then I will go over here, and now it's time to make some circles, I guess. So I will probably make one right over there. But there is a problem. Oh, there are always problems, aren't there, people? Aren't we just elaborate problem-solving machines? If we now try to make a circle here, delete the faces, well, this doesn't look like a circle now, does it? And if we try to smooth it out, still doesn't look like a circle. And if we try to scale it, our entire existence is going to be destroyed. It's going to be something like this. And well, that shading is messed up. We're not going to do that. We are not going to follow this method. Why does this occur, by the way? So here's some theory time. This is a shape that's not a natural square. Let me show you what I mean. I'll bring in a plane. I'll bring in a plane right here. I will give it some geometry and I will make sure that they are all squares. Like this. And if I now select this inner area, and if I now turn this into a circle using loop tools, we get a perfect circle on the first try. But if I now bring in a plane, and let's say the plane doesn't have equal squares. Let's say it looks like this, and I will select it, make sure we have a little bit more. I'm going to press I. Loop tools, circle, okay. So now we're starting to run into problems. It's not understanding the math on how to place the circle. We still did get a good circle, thank you loop tools, but it didn't go as smooth as this one. And the reason for it is because it's trying to interpret it from different line lengths, which makes it harder for the circle to understand what's going on. Not that circles can think, but we can, and we know that these circles are trying to plot against us. This is the reason why using squares that are equal on all sides is usually the best way to go. Now, we didn't do it right here, either because we are stupid, especially you, because I know what I'm doing. I just want to solve problems with you. You could have done this way easier, but well, that's just your fault, not mine. So we have some weird looking shapes right here, and we still have to make sure that this is a circle. How we're going to do it? It's actually simpler than you might think. So right here in the middle, I'm going to press Shift S, cursor to selected, and I think it's the wrong area actually. We want to do it right over here, or maybe one higher, maybe this one. Shift S, cursor to selected, and let's bring in a new circle. Shift A, mesh, circle. We've got a circle now, RX90. Let's scale it, let's rotate it, help it along a little bit. Let's add a shrink wrap modifier. Let's select the surface point. We've got a circle on this area right now. This is way too big, so I'm going to scale it down until we get the circle type shape that we actually need. So this one is a little bit bigger, something like this should be fine. I think it's an on button. Shift D, C, let's bring this over there as well and scale it down because we have a smaller one and another one on the other side, like right there. Now, let's apply this. Shrink wrap, apply. Let's bring this circle in this mesh. And let's first see if this is going to work out. Haha. Because I don't know. I don't plan my videos. I actually do everything off the cuff and pretend as if I know everything. Which I do. Don't question my methods. So let's count the amount of edges we have here. We have 12 edges, and on this circle we have 32. There's no way to divide this. So we actually messed it up before it even started now, didn't we? So let's delete some more. Now we have 16, and that's great because those are 32. And that means that we can now divide it by 2 and get the same amount of edges. Darn it, guys, aren't we smart? We are getting smarter day by day, aren't we? So let's go over to select, checker deselect right here, X, dissolve the vertices. We've got that right, 16 and 16, wow. Wow, wow, wow. I can't believe that this is going to work out. I'm simply going to select those edges and those ones as well. You can probably guess what's going to happen. We're going to do the bridge edge loops. That looks pretty cool to me, and that's a circle, all right. So let's do the same for the other ones. Let's go over here. Let's apply the shrink wrap first. Let's apply the shrink wrap first. Let's take both of these circles. Perhaps we can do it at the same time. Probably not. But you know what? I'm an optimistic guy. Control J. Let's select this circle. Control J. We just added both of these. Let's do the top one first. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's very close to this one. So how can we make sure that it's going to work out? Well, we can't. So let's remove that. We only have the big circle for now, and we're going to fix that shortly hereafter. But before we do that, we should make this button because, well, otherwise we're working with more geometry later on when we have to create this button. So we are switching around, but no problem. Damn, we did a good job on this, don't you think? All right, so let's go back to our button. We've got it right here. Let's select the inner area, and I will actually apply a grid fill, and it's immediately perfect. I use a span of 6 and offset of 0. This looks quite well for my taste. I'm going to press on P immediately, and now we have this separated. So we have the button. There are 2 things that we need to do, and very carefully so. I'm going to press Alt-E, faces along normals, and let's bring it outwards just a little bit so we have our button shape. Then I want to make sure that I have the other side, so I'm going to press Ctrl-I, but I don't want this area. So I'm going to press on 3, or I'm simply going to deselect this line. And now we only have the inner area. Why do I do that? Well, because I want to make sure that the button is going inside. So when the people who are trying to meticulously review my product after getting it from Gumroad, they will know that I didn't fool them. I actually made the inside of the button. Because I know how they are. They will zoom in like this, and they're like, ah, the Blender render didn't actually make a hole. He didn't actually place a button in there, but I did. And then they will be amazed and leave a 5-star review. That's how it works. So let's take this button then, and we're going to make some adjustments to it in order to make it look good. How are we going to do it? Well, it's actually quite simple. Let's first go over here. So now let's go over into this button and make sure that it looks good. How are we going to do it? Well, let's go into edit mode and let's select a loop cut. So looking at this, it's kind of like a blob. Now that we added this loop cut, it's starting to look a bit better. So let's increase the subdivisions. Starting to look pretty cool. But there are a couple more things that we can do in order to make it supreme. So let's select this. I believe that this is a nice and equal division of this model. So let's click on Loop Tools, Flatten, right here. Now we've got a flat line. Let's do the same for this one. Loop Tools, Flatten, Flat Line. So let's select this line and press V. And V is to tear something apart. So if I press V, now this part will be loose from its oppressor. Grid Fill. And I will also select the other one, Grid Fill, and now these are 2 separate buttons. Very good. I will do the same for this area. So hold Alt, select this edge loop, press V to tear it off, Grid Fill, and then for this one as well a Grid Fill. But now we have those weird looking lines from the buttons. I don't like that, and we can solve it very simply by adding a new loop cut and making sure that this is going into that direction. We could also do a bevel or something like that, but I think for our case, this is working out fine and it's a bit less work. All right, so we reached a crucial point in this modeling process once again. So let's turn it into a backup. So now let's go over here and apply 1 level of subdivision. Now we get a little bit more geometry to work with. There's 2 ways to go about it, and I will simply do the way that we did before. So select this one, cursor to selected. We've got some mesh right here. This is going to be deleted, I reckon. And when I do this, let's do it. we have 12 vertices, all right? So we have to keep that into account. I'm going to add a circle, mesh, circle, to make it real. Let's give it 12 vertices. Scale it down, RX 90, C, doesn't really matter for now. Shrink wrap, let's place it on the surface. Ooh, doesn't like doing that. And make sure it's a pretty small circle. It's a smaller circle than this one. And then I will add this to the original mesh. Oh, but before we do that, let's apply the shrink wrap modifier. Ctrl J, let's delete those faces. Let's select this. Let's select those ones last and bridge edge loops. All right, so now let's add the final circle. Shift S, cursor to selected. Then we'll place it right there. And then we've got our circle. This one, Shift S, selection to cursor. Let's make sure to set the origin to the geometry first, selection to cursor. Let's add a shrink wrap modifier, shrink wrap. Up. Great. And let's add those two together. So first, shrink wrap, apply. Ctrl J, remove those faces. This one, that one, bridge edge loops. And now we have another. Ooh, the circle doesn't look too healthy actually. Not certain why that is. Ah, it was because this one was already shrink wrapped to a different surface, I reckon. Is that the case? Let's rotate this. Shrink wrap. This looks pretty good. Let's apply it. Ctrl J, bridge edge loops. And now we have our second circle. All right, so let's select this circle. It's not a really regular circle because it was changed a little bit by the shrink wrap modifier. I'm going to select this one and let's do this one as well. Shift D, click P, selection, and now these are a separate object. And what we're going to do is click on this. Let's select this separate object, loop tools, circle. And now it's back to being a regular circle. As you can see, it is a little bit different than the hole that we have here. We could try to go in here and perhaps shape this hole a bit more according to that normal circle. Let's see. Ah, we got that done. We didn't mess anything up. We can do the same for this area. So let's first select this circle. Let's go into loop tools, circle, and go back in the original mesh. Let's select that circle. Could be something like this, S and X. Just make sure that you are not getting wild shading issues. All right, so we've got those two, and those are normal circles. So I'm going to press F, and now it's filled up. I'm going to extrude these faces along the normals and bring it out just a little bit. Perhaps what we can do now is give it an eye and add a loop cut right here, a loop cut right there. Let's do the same for this one. Let's increase the subdivision and auto shade it smooth. Those look like some pretty good buttons to me. I think this one is a bit too much though. And I also feel like we should use the same method. So let's delete it. Let's go over here, Shift S, cursor to selected. Let's add a circle, or actually let's take this circle. Shift D, P, separate selection. We've got a circle here. Let's go into edit mode, loop tools, circle. Now it's an actual circle. Let's go back in the original mesh. Let's play around with it. Actually, this one did pretty good. Something like this. Then I will select the original circle that we separated. I will press F. And I will press Alt E, faces along normals. Let's bring it outside. Let's press I. Bring it inwards ever so slightly. One loop cut over there, one loop cut over here. Let's increase the subdivision and let's shade it smooth. And there we have it, a perfect looking button. Now let's go inside of all of these buttons. So let's select them. Let's click on edit mode. Let's click on dash. And I want to make sure that we have only the back faces selected. Press Alt E. And then we'll bring this outside some more. So it's actually going inside the model. Let's press I. There you go. Let's click on dash again. And now it's actually going inside of the model. I really want to have that. All right, so now we got to give it some thickness. So let's go over here. I'm going to select all and extrude it inwards. Something like this. All right, so now we got to add some bevels to this. So I'm going into edit mode. Let's make sure that we are doing the dashboard view. So let's click on the dash icon. I'm going to click on all of these lines, and once again, don't select these, only select the outer lines, like this. Make sure you have all of them. Alright, and if you have everything selected on this outside area, like this, then we are ready to do the bevel. Don't select this one just yet. Alright, so let's do the bevel. Alright, so now let's go back into edit mode, and instead of selecting all the outer areas, let's select these inner areas. All of this, all of that. And now let's have a look at one, such as this one. Control B. And make it sharp like that. Awesome. And now we have a pretty cool looking model. I feel like all the face orientation is still correct, but I was wrong. So I'm going to select this, Shift N. So congratulations, this part of the model is now done. We are going to select everything and place it in a new background backup collection. So backup 4 I will call it, and make sure that we disable it. Very good. Now for the next step. I'm going to select this. I'm going to click on 1. And right now we want to actually rotate this and maybe scale it down, bring it somewhat over here. And this fits near perfectly, so I guess we did a pretty good job. Take the outer ring, Shift D, P, separate the selection. We've got it selected right here. Press on 1, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't fit the reference exactly. We didn't model it according to the reference, so it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to select this, cursor to selected, then I will select our little line, go into edit mode, select all, go to the spin tool, and I will simply do the spin with the Y. Something like this. And let's move it around using these sliders. Something like so. And this should be 120, I believe. Yeah, so now it's in the middle exactly. Well, as you can already see, something here is a bit different, but that's because that's an interior. For now, this is going fine. We have this part of the model. We can click out of this and make this straight, SX0. We can already add a mirror modifier if you'd like to do that. Mirror modifier on the x-axis. And this is the object that we want it to be mirrored on, something like so. And we can select this, G and X, bring it right over there, enable clipping. And it looks like this. Now there's a slight issue right here. And that will be resolved once we place the mirror above the subdivision. So that's the way we will do it. Okay, let's have a look. Looks pretty nice. I think this is all right. So let's go over to the next part where we are. So let's go over to the next part. We need to remove some area over here. We need to make sure that this area is loose and there's another part inside of this. And basically right then and there, we are nearing the end. I'm going to select this edge, press V, and then I will give this a grid fill. Very good. Then I will select the other one, grid fill, also pretty good. And that made sure that we separated it. We can add some extra geometry right here, like so. And that's that part, but it should be open. So let's go right over here. Let's add a loop cut. Let's select this area entirely, delete the faces, and now it's open. Yeah, now it's open. We need to make the interior for that as well, but that will come. Let's click on 1 again, and then we've got a part where it's open. I think if we select all of this, that might be good enough. Or maybe we can do it from here on. Yes. And then we will do the exact same on the other side, like this. That's great. And then we need to make sure that we get the rest. And now that we have all of this selected, I'm not going to delete it. I'm simply going to press P, separate the selection. And now this will function as our cushion. We're going to do that later on. But for now, let's hide it. Let's go over here. Let's select this vertex and this vertex. Let's slide it upwards because we are trying to create this sloping effect right there. GG. Let's select it, GG. Make sure it looks pretty good. And now I find that this part right here, it has some weird shading issues. I don't think it's because of the face orientation, but actually it is. Shift N, And now that should be fine. That's right. So that has been solved. Now let's make the interior of this. Take this inner area, not the outer one. Just take the inner area. Shift D, P, separate the selection. We've got it selected. I'm going to take this, go into edit mode and simply do the same trick. We're going to slide it inwards just a little bit. And now we're going to play around until it's hidden inside of this mesh. It's not sticking out anywhere else. Something like this is fine. We can do the same for the other side. So let's do this and then bring it inwards like that. Add a grid fill and now it's all filled up. And then I believe we have some type where it's sticking out like this. So only this middle area. Press E, bring it outwards just a little bit, not too much. R and Y, let's rotate it like this. And then we have that area. We can maybe add a loop cut surrounding this, going towards that side and maybe even towards this side. And then that should be good enough for what we are trying to do. So now let's go over to this part. And we probably want to apply the mirror, which I'm going to do right now. Let's merge by distance, make sure that everything is fine. So everything is connected here, that's great. So let's click on dash. Let's select this one, and let's hide it. Very good. Then I'm going to select two vertices underneath here. Let's click on the dash icon again. I'm going to enable proportional editing. Press on 1, G and Z. Something like this. And if we unhide this, then that should probably be enough. Now it is sticking out right here now. So let's hide this for now. Let's click on this mesh and let's give it some thickness as well. So let's go in here, Alt E, extrude faces along normals. We don't want to bring this outside, but inside in this case. Very good. Looks pretty good over here as well. Now let's bring back our original circle. Look right there. Let's bring it upwards, S and Y just a little bit to make sure it goes inside of this mesh and fits in it like this. Very good. And now we still have a small problem over here. Let's scale that on the X axis just a little bit, then press X and bring it inside until it fits. S and Y. And now it is fitting perfectly into this side. Let's see, this is a bit harsher. So let's apply the modifiers right now. Let's now give it a bevel. So let's select this inner area, go all the way around this, and let's give this a small bevel. That looks pretty hard surfacey to me. I feel like we are lacking some geometry here. Give it a bit more curvature, just a little bit. Perhaps we can take this area, I believe it's a bit too far even, so let's just add another loop cut right here. Let's go into this one, let's add another loop cut, make sure it aligns. Very good. Now it's looking pretty nice. But now we only have two more things left to do. Let's go over here. Let's add a mirror modifier. And let's select the image once again. I'm going to select this, add another mirror modifier, select the image. Now this is on the other side as well. Then we're going to do the same for this one. Mirror it over to the other side. Let's do the same for this. Mirror. And mirror it over to the other side. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there, but not entirely yet. And the first thing I'm going to do is place this on top of the subdivision and apply the mirror. I will do the same for each and every one of those. Let's do the same for this. Let's do the same for that. So I'm going to select this, LP, separate the selection. Now it's loose. Going to do the same for this one, LP, separate the selection, and it's loose. Doing the same for this one, let's select it, LP, and now it's loose. Very good. And I'm also going to do it for this one, by the way. So let's apply the mirror. Let's go over here, LP, separate the selection. And now this is also loose. Let's patch this up, because there's a giant hole in our model. We don't actually want that anymore. So how are we going to do it? This was a pretty well-made circle. And there's two ways that we can do it. One, we made a lot of backups, so we can either use those, or I'm simply going to select the loop inside of this, delete all of those faces, like this. Then I will select this area, grid fill. We don't even have to do anything anymore. And that looks pretty good. Let's do it on the inside as well, because now we get a hole on the inside. I don't like that, even though nobody's going to see it. Let's add some more geometry. All right, now let's do the same for the circles. Let's go over here. And it seems like we can simply select all of this and that and that. Whoop. Control plus 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 plus. We have to delete this one first. Maybe we can do even more. No, it's going to be tough if we do it like that. So let's delete it. Then let's select this loop and that loop. Let's do it on the inside again. Then let's remove all of this. Do the same on this side. Do it again right here and do it again right here. Now if we select this entire area, I do believe we use a grid fill, and that basically solved our problem now, didn't it? Except for the one on the inside. So let's do the same for the inside. Solve the problem. All right, so now this has been entirely patched up. Looks pretty good if you ask me. Snap out of it, and now we have this side as well. Now, another method that we could have used is by going over to the backup collection, like somewhere over here. And what do you have? A perfect circle like this. It doesn't even have the subdivision on it already. So you can also use that and place it right over here. That might be the smarter method. No problem, we have already fixed it. So we're just going to leave it like this. I think it's fine. And now the final thing left to do is to make those cushions. All right, and of course we're only going to make one, and then we'll mirror it over to the other side and turn it around so nobody sees that we only did one thing. Haha. Cursor to selected. Let's add a mesh donut, torus. And let's go over to this side. We have the major radius. Let's make sure it's somewhat the same as this. And we have the minor radius. I think something like this should do the trick. Let's rotate this. Let's add a subdivision surface modifier. And this shade smooth. Alright guys, so during the recording of this video I noticed there was not sufficient disk space, which means that the recording stopped. I already sculpted the entire thing. I simply am going to give you instructions on how I did it. So right now I have a donut right here and I shaped it just a little bit. Let me take it like this to become a bit more flat on the bottom side. And I also added this particular part, which I used Alt-S to scale inwards. Why did I do that? Well, that's because we get this line right here. And you can make it more pronounced by adding I. I think that's a bit too much. I think using this with a crease, so Shift E, would be enough to get this effect. Now, how can we make sure that this actually looks like this? Well, it's quite simple actually. I'm going to apply the subdivision and then it will look like this. We can go over into sculpt mode, so right here. Then there's something very interesting. We have the mask, and the mask allows us to draw on this mesh, and that's a part where nothing is going to be influenced by anything we draw on it. So I'm going to make it very small and I will draw on this simply as an instruction. This is sculpting, so I'm going to select all of this, something like so. Now, there are two things that we must do. The first thing I did is to bring in some randomization in this cushion. How did I do it? I tried playing around with the cloth filter first. So I'm going to select the cloth filter right here, set it to pinch, and I will select it, and you can see that it does something with this mesh. Some interesting stuff actually. Now it's dying. But as we noticed, it's not influencing the black part that we just created. So don't be too strong with this. Maybe something like so should be fine. So let's use the draw brush and actually make this smooth a bit more, like this, holding shift. Alright, so now we have our first layer of detail, and I think that looks pretty good. You can play around with the draw brush to make it a bit more randomized. We already get some of those type effects right there. I'm going into the crease sharp,
And this is basically what I used throughout the entire mesh. So I drew in it like this, either holding Control or just pressing with the mouse. Now this is a bit too strong. So what I recommend is pressing Shift F, making it slightly less strong and drawing on it like this. And this is just a time consuming process. I simply went throughout the entire model, all the way throughout, like here, and I drew some over here and there. And this is an artistic process. You have to make this yourself. It could also go very fast if you just do it like this. Just make sure that it looks good. All right, so make sure it looks a bit more like this. Well, you have to go over the entire mesh, and this is just going to take some time, okay? Then we are going back into the mask, and if you hold Control, you can remove an entire piece of the mask at once. And then we are simply going back into this draw sharp brush again, and we're going to follow this entire line because we want to make sure that it's quite there. It doesn't have to be extreme, but we want to make sure that it's visible enough. You know what I'm saying? So we're going all the way over this line, make sure that there is this separation going on. You could have the mask enabled still when you do this, so maybe one more subdivide. And then you can draw in this with sculpt mode very easily. All right, so that's how you get this specific part. Very cool. Once you have that line, you can also draw in this area. And make sure to do it subtly. There are some lines over there, and well, do your thing. I did it for this side as well, but make sure to keep the overall shape.
So now we have this entire piece done. How awesome is that? Cool. So let's go back into object mode. Let's delete this donut and let's bring this one over to the other side. So mirror, let's select the image as the mirror part. And now I'm going to apply the mirror, select this entire area, P, separate the selection. Let's RZZ, but first go to object, set origin to geometry, RZZ. Let's rotate this around somewhere over here. RYY, and make sure that it's just sticking on there nicely. And this part we need to do some sculpting with. So let's go over into sculpt mode. Let's go to the draw brush. And let's simply bring it out. Okay, awesome. So there's only one more thing that we need to do. So let's go over into this one. Let's select one of these lines. I'm going to select this line. Shift D, P, separate selection. We've got this line right here. I will convert it to a curve. Then going into the curve, I will give it some geometry. Under bevel, it will be some type of bevel. Like this. Maybe give it a slightly higher resolution, 5 for example. Then it looks like this. And now we should go into checker deselect. Check, select, checker deselect. Let's select some more and dissolve these vertices. Very good. Then we're going to select everything. Select, checker deselect. There you go. Then I'm going to do the selected to 1 and I will scale this outwards or inwards, whatever you like, and then scale it just a little bit. Let's add a subdivision surface modifier. And now we have some type of padding for the inside. So it is actually being held together. It's being stitched. Small detail, but I think it's pretty cool. Let's do the same for the other side as well. So let's select this entire line, make sure that it's all visible. Shift D, P, separate the selection. We are now going to select this selection. I will turn it into a curve. Now we've got that right here. Give it a small bevel so we actually see some geometry. Then I'm going to edit mode, select, checker deselect. Let's select some more. X, dissolve vertices. Let's have all of these selected. Select, checker deselect. Doesn't work. Let's do it again. Select, checker deselect, and now it works. I don't know why. Let's turn this down. Scale it inwards. And finally scale it outwards just a little bit. And add a subdivision surface modifier. Alright guys, that's it. This is the model and I hope you are very proud of what you have created. It is a pretty cool looking model, and in the next video we are going to texture all of this, so make sure you don't miss it. I hope you learned a lot about using circular meshes and how to manipulate those without destroying anything in the process or without getting a lot of trouble. We learned how to shred and tear these buttons up. We learned how to make a very organic part of this model. and turned it into this headband as well, proportionally and correct. We learned how to sculpt these speaker cushions. We also used a mask and used a crease brush in order to create some cool details in this. We created some circular meshes in our circle, which is a challenge in and of itself, but we did it and we created some beautiful looking buttons. And right here, the overall shape of the mesh just looks professional. It has been done quite well. We also made sure to get this inner area and some smaller details. Those were pretty easy. So in the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how to texture this step by step. And we're also going to add some empties in order to animate all of this separately while still having a main controller. So I hope you're as excited about it as I am. And if you want to watch that video, click right here.